Hello, my name is Maya. Welcome back to my channel. So today will be my final Supernatural video for a while. Yes, I know I have made a shit ton of them, but we're coming to the end of that. This is kind of the note that I wanted to end on with this Supernatural adventure. It has been crazy, like a crazy ride, really. I spent 6 months watching the show. I've spent a long time doing these videos and I put a lot of love into them, and honestly it was just really fun for me, but I need a break. I need to move on to some other stuff. But for my last kind of supernatural adventure, I wanted to talk about Cass's love for Dean. And I really feel like this is the best place to end because this is, in my opinion, one of the most unique and special things about this show. Never before in fiction have I seen a character love a character this much, and I don't really think I ever will again. I have talked about Dean's feelings for Cass in my debate that you can go watch if you want. I had a lot of fun doing it and I had a lot of fun making it. However, I think that even non-Dean and Cass shippers can agree on the fact that Cass is in love with Dean. Even without his confession at the end of the series, we have characters blatantly saying that Cass is in love with Dean. We also have characters pointing out that Cass does everything for Dean. So in this sense, I'm going to approach this topic from the viewpoint of not trying to convince you of Cass's love for Dean, but instead I just want to take a deep dive into Cass's love for Dean. His love for Dean in a romantic sense. I'm not going over a platonic love here. This is a romantic love. Maybe not in the most traditional way that we are used to, but it's still a romantic love. If you don't believe that this love is romantic, then this video is not for you. So if you want to continue on this journey with me, then let's get started. So we don't know too much about Cass before he met Dean. We never got to see a lot of who he was before Dean came into the picture. However, we do know some things. Cass is an angel, and along with being an angel comes his blind loyalty to the orders of heaven and God, aka Chuckles, as well as, a very emotionless way of living. Angels aren't supposed to fall in love or feel those types of human emotions. From what we know of Cass, he was a loyal soldier. We do find out that he had been modified in his past with the Angel Factory setting, the Angel Factory mode setting thing that Naomi does. However, I like to call it hacking into like an angel's brain because I just think it's fucking hilarious. However, this seems to be quite common among angels, They develop a rebellious streak and then get sent in for modification, and then they come back out a loyal soldier to heaven. We know that Cass was a good warrior, and we know that he did visit humanity before meeting Dean, though not often. The only real flashback we get of this was in that episode in season 12, where we got to see him complete the Nephilim killing fit mission, which, by the way, spectacular episode. Due to his limited experience with humanity, Cass has most likely never developed a relationship with a human before. He also used to vessel hop because he only got Jamie as a vessel when he got Dean out of hell in season 4. We have seen him in a female vessel, and as I've kind of hinted to previously, I don't think angels really have set genders or sexualities. So though Cass is in a man's vessel throughout the majority of the show, I wouldn't say that necessarily means he prescribes to a gender and sexuality norms in the way that Dean does. We also know another very important piece of information. Cass was a virgin before he meets Dean. This is only important in the sense that we can infer that before meeting Dean, Cass never felt any romantic feelings for anyone, or even just sexual feelings for anyone. He'd been alive for like a very long time at the point of meeting Dean. He never felt anything like what he felt for Dean in the very long life he lived up until the point of meeting Dean. So let's just take a second to really think about that. Dean really is such a small part of his entire existence, and yet it was the most impactful part of his life. It was enough to change Cass so exponentially. Now, in addition to bits of flashback, we have also gotten what would Cass be like if he hadn't met Dean moments in the show. We can assume that though this flashback may be very exclusive to the point in the show that we are in, it can show us a glimpse into what Cass was like before he met Dean, personality-wise. So we know that he was a very rigid angel. In that episode in season 13, when Dean met Apocalypse version Cass, he was like a torture-crazy loving guy. Torture-loving crazy guy. Torture crazy loving guy. I mean, in this scene where John comes back via magic pearl and changes the past, making it so the cast never met Dean, he's a very loyal soldier of heaven. He blindly followed Zachariah, my boy, his orders to beat Dean up, who kept being like, no, Cass, it's me, Dean. Just a side note, I loved how upset Dean was that Cass didn't recognize him. So basically, I just painted a picture of a loyal, rigid soldier of heaven with very little emotions. That was Cass pre-Dean. And then obviously, like, the apocalypse version of him is going to be not the same as, like, Cass in, like, Earth 1 version. But, like, still we can infer that he, like, got really into the mission of heaven because he was very into this torturing shit in the war that was going on there between the angels and the humans, or whatever, the apocalypse. You know, Apocalypse World. It looked like Westworld for a bit, which is why I called it Westworld. Fun fact. Now, I think from the get-go, Cass had a soft spot for Dean without even getting the chance to, like, properly meet Dean. He pulled Dean from hell and put him back together in a sense. He had kind of an already intimate experience with Dean without Dean even really knowing. I think this can be seen in the fact that Cass legitimately thought that Dean could be one of the few special people who could see his true form. So he tried to talk to Dean and ended up almost causing him hearing loss. Like, he actually tells Dean upon their first meeting that he had thought Dean was, like, special and, you know, and was like, oh, sorry, I was wrong. To be fair, like, obviously just because Dean is, like, Michael's chosen vessel, I can see why he would think that, but still, I just think that's really funny, because there's maybe, like, what, 8 people who can do that? I mean, it's probably more than 8, but you get my point. What I love about their first meeting is how Dean is, like, trying to kill him at first and, like, stabs a knife through Cass. And Cass is like, oh yeah, I saved your life. Yeah, Cass is, like, not fazed by this, like, in any way. This is why the only person for Dean is Cass, because Cass fell in love with angsty, self-hating Dean who tried to kill him upon first meeting him. I mean, that's literally just Dean. Another thing to note about that first meeting is that Cass puts Bobby to sleep because he wanted to talk to Dean alone, and there was, like, no reason for that. Like, Cass could have said everything he needed to say to Dean in front of Bobby, so, like, Cass just wanted alone time. Like, you really can't tell me otherwise. But anyways, to the main point, I feel like even from the first meeting, you can see that Cass likes Dean. It's not the profound love that he will grow for Dean over the span of the season, but it's there. Like, he looks into Dean's eyes and asks him why he doesn't think he's worthy of being saved. Makes a lot of intense eye contact with Dean, and you can just tell there's something there. I can't really pinpoint the moment that Cass fell in love with Dean, but throughout the season, you can see that Cass starts to really like Dean. I don't think Cass really knew what that emotion he was feeling was. Like, he had never experienced love before. However, his like of Dean was so obvious that the angel literally sent him to get his brain rewired. I feel like there were a few reasons why Cass was drawn to Dean. First of all, it's Dean. He is gorgeous. Truly an attractive man. I would bang him. I get it, Cass. However, I'm not making this entire video to be like, Dean was attractive, that's why Cass is in love with him. No, I just had to mention it because it's very obvious and we need to get it out of the way. Second of all, Dean had this way that I've talked about before where you want his love, and when you feel his love, it's powerful. Dean did give Cass a nickname, and he shared some really personal things with Cass throughout season 4. Namely, in that one episode where Dean was forced to torture, he was very vulnerable with Cass. Dean started to view Cass as a friend, something Cass had probably never had before. Like, he had the angels, but, like, were they really friends? Like, legit friends? Also, like, Cass, I think, felt really comfortable with Dean and with sharing his doubts about heaven with Dean, which I think is a big thing. Cass saw through Dean a different way of living and a different perspective on life. Dean didn't submit to the will of heaven. Dean would talk back to angels. Dean had this sense of free will and excitement. Dean represented something so different from the life that Cass lived, and it was almost like Dean was this forbidden temptation. Dean was like Cass's apple in the Garden of Eden. Yeah, that's right. I can make Christian metaphors. Dean shattered the glass of the perfect reality that heaven wanted to create, but also opened Cass's eyes to a whole other way of living. Cass fell in love with Dean's humanity. It's no wonder that Cass cared about the entire world because of his love for Dean, because Dean was the person who introduced him to a whole new world. A la Aladdin, a whole new world. Not only did Dean introduce him to a whole new way of living and thinking, but he also introduced Cass to emotions he had never experienced before. And when you've never experienced love, it can change your life. Dean was the first person that Cass ever loved, romantically or otherwise. Just the first person he loved. I think that's why Cass was so hesitant to go fully with Dean until the very end of the season, because he was definitely having an internal crisis. An identity crisis, not only with what was going on with the angels, but also just like his own feelings. Trying to understand how you love someone when you've never loved someone must be difficult, especially when loving that person goes against your cult-like mentality that you're programmed to follow. I also just think Cass fell in love with Dean, who he is as a person, like in his personality. The more he found out about Dean, the more he liked him. The way that Dean is with Sam, the way that even after what Sam did, he still sticks by Sam. The more you watch Dean, the more you come to love Dean. What I find really interesting is that Cass actually does get sent to get his brain rewired mid-season 4, and this does nothing against the effects of Cass's love for Dean. There's this really sweet moment in season 4, episode 18, where Cass is like so happy that he heard Dean's prayers, because that means that Dean has faith in him. Then Dean like asks him for help, but Cass says he can't, and Dean gets so upset, and Cass is like, oh shit, no, I will help you. It was like this gradual build up, and by the end of season 4, I don't think Cass's feelings were truly understood by him yet, but they were definitely growing stronger. This all accumulated in him falling from heaven for Dean, a decision that will define him for the rest of his life, a decision he definitely struggled with a lot in season 5. I also think when you fall from heaven for someone and then you find out that it's probably not going to happen, romantically, that's a lot to take in. On top of that, the apocalypse problem too. Some things that I really like about Cass in this season, and a bit of the other seasons as well, is that he goes on a journey to figure out his own feelings for Dean, and you can kind of see him figuring out his boundaries with Dean as well. Like a really good example of this is the personal space problem. Cass would often appear near Dean, like really close to Dean. Dean would always make a comment about it. This is not just Cass not understanding human relationships. This is also just Cass trying to figure out his relationship with Dean. He obviously wants more. I mean, he gets so flustered when Dean starts talking about sex, and when he admits he's a virgin to Dean. Things that he shouldn't even care about as an angel. Like, angels aren't supposed to care about human constructs like virginity or have the sexual urges. Cass, however, does care because it's Dean talking to him about it, and he realizes that he may want those things with Dean, who clearly doesn't see him in that way, or at least from Cass's POV. By the end of season 5, I think he came to the conclusion that what he wanted from Dean is not what Dean is going to give him, which is why I think he chose to leave at the end of season 5. I mean, that and to help the angels, obviously. There were multiple reasons. He felt that he had helped Dean all he could and wanted things to return to normal. He thought that Dean could be used as a learning experience and free will, and he could just move on. He saw that Dean was going to have his life with Lisa, and he thought, I don't want to impose on that because it makes him happy. In season 6, he doesn't come to Dean until Dean practically prayer forces him to. We find out later that Cass literally started a civil war and teamed up with Crowley, all to keep Dean out of the life because he thought that was what Dean wanted. So begins the love that we see Cass give Dean throughout the rest of the series. Whether in a misguided way like season 6, where it ends up going terribly wrong, or in some very precious and sweet ways. This love that forms is so powerful and strong. I'm sure at times very annoying to Cass. If there's one thing I will never doubt about Cass's love for Dean, is that he loves Dean so selflessly. He truly puts Dean's needs above his own. Maybe not in the sense of like when making plot decisions. I mean in the sense of his relationship with Dean. Once Cass concluded that Dean could never feel the same way that he did, he never really sought out any sort of confirmation from Dean. He never sought out anything more from Dean than Dean was willing to give. He let Dean dictate their entire relationship together. He never once tried to impose his own wants on the relationship in the sense of wanting anything more than this brotherly best friend thing they had going. On top of that, he could have so easily left Dean. I imagine at times it was painful, and sometimes Dean did not make having a relationship with him easy. Like, let's admit that. The only times he ever left the relationship was when he thought Dean wanted him to leave. Once again proving that he let Dean dictate the relationship for the majority of the time. I'm not saying he wasn't hurt by leaving because Dean didn't want him there. Season 9, Cass was acting like a spurned lover after Dean told him to leave the bunker. He was also upset in season 15. The point, he still left despite not wanting to. I think the only time he really took any sort of initiative was when he came back in season 15, forcing himself back in Dean's life despite Dean seemingly not wanting him there. That's not to say he hasn't left Dean temporarily, not realizing that Dean didn't see this as a temporary departure and was quite angry he disappeared, like in season 8 with the tablet or season 12 when he went to the Angels. The only exception is when he chose Jack over Dean, but that really didn't have anything to do with like his relationship with Dean and more to do with him bonding with Jack as a father. The point I'm trying to make is that Cass didn't have to stay by Dean's side for like 13 years, but he did. He did all that and never once tried to even entertain a romantic relationship with Dean. I think a good example of what a more selfish type of love is with Jim and Pam. And I just want to point is that I'm not saying that selfish is like in a negative way. Like you should get what you want from a relationship. Like it should be on equal footings. I'm just saying Cass's love was extremely selfish. Like he never wanted anything that he wanted from Dean. You know what I mean? But like I don't mean selfish in a negative way. You know, I love Jim and Pam. I'm not in any way trying to say that Jim's love for Pam isn't amazing just because he has wants in the relationship and he tried to fulfill those wants. If you think about it, Jim was in a very similar position as Cass to Pam in the first 2 seasons, minus the Roy, right? There was no Roy in Dean's situation. But unlike Jim, who couldn't take it anymore and had to express his love, which, by the way, was not a bad thing to do, minus the cheating aspect of that with Jim and Pam. But point being, it wasn't bad that he expressed his love. But Cass never did that. Well, until he died. He did that for Dean too. You know, he expressed his love for Dean. The only time he ever spoke his truth, it wasn't for him to potentially see where Dean's head is at, or even just to speak a truth that had been with him for 13 years. It was just to save Dean. I mean, he almost did it in season 12 when he thought he was going to die, but then he got nervous though and pivoted to love confession, to like a family love confession. But I knew what he was saying. I knew. I understood. I got the memo, Cass. I know that some of Cass's hesitation was a fear of losing Dean, that Dean would push him away because he didn't feel the same way. Cass just wanted to be with Dean in any way he could. I think the way that Cass was able to just be happy having the relationship he did with Dean is so powerful. Like, he truly loved Dean. He took every moment he could get with Dean, no matter how little they were. No matter what Dean was going through, he stayed by his side. He didn't have to do any of that. But he did it because he loved Dean and he never expected anything from him. He never experienced a moment of true happiness because he loved Dean enough to let that hope go. I want to make this clear, and I will always stand by this point. Dean didn't owe Cass anything either. Dean didn't owe Cass a reciprocation, but Cass really didn't try to explore a relationship like beyond Dean. Like, his few attempts were kind of laughable at best. I mean, Hannah was the closest he ever got, besides his wife in season 7, who was forgotten about, to love outside of Dean. And he spent the entire time they road trip together talking about Dean and driving to Dean. And then he left her in the car to go talk to Dean. He genuinely stayed in love with Dean for all those years, did nothing about it, decided he didn't need true happiness. He just wanted to be near Dean and never really tried to find a romantic relationship outside of Dean. I mean, he found a son outside of Dean, but then ended up co-parenting, so like his life is very much Dean related. When he needs help, he turns to Dean first and foremost. When he comes back from the dead, the first person he finds is Dean. I mean, he had Dean's phone number memorized in season 13 when he came back from the dead and was able to call it using a payphone. Dean's his person. I think Cass could just never find someone who made him feel the way Dean did. Dean was his first and only love, and that's kind of beautiful. Cass always saw the best in Dean. I'm just going to put this out here. I don't think anyone loves Dean more than Cass. At least no one will ever love Dean in a romantic way, the way that Cass does. Don't want to upset the Sam stans. I'm kidding. Sam obviously loves Dean a lot, okay? The point I'm trying to make is Cass loves every part of Dean, the good and the bad. He looks at Dean's actions and he understands them better than Dean does. He sees how big Dean's heart is and he loves it. He sees the good in every one of Dean's actions. Sometimes it's not rational, but he does. Even when they bicker, Cass forgives Dean so easily about having an emotional talk, because as soon as he understands Dean's emotions, he takes note of them and attempts to not repeat that mistake again. The only exception being when they were fighting about Jack. There's always an exception, and Cass still, after all of the horribleness though, still wanted to make things right with Dean. I mean, the things that Cass said about Dean before he died were just the nicest things that anyone has said about Dean, besides me, when I was doing a character analysis about Dean. But like, all jokes aside, he truly does see Dean as the most caring and loving man on earth. He has mentioned a few times how he looks up to Dean and thinks that Dean is a good role model, which he isn't. But I love that he's so blinded by love. It's not even the fact that he sees the good in Dean. It's that he has seen the worst sides of Dean, taking the brunt of Dean's anger, and he still loves him fully and completely. It's almost so hard to comprehend how a little literal angel fell so hard in love with Dean. Cass fell from heaven for this one stupid human. He gave up an entire angel army for this one stupid human. I think it's actually so beautiful that Cass was able to continuously see Dean in such a great light, even after seeing Dean at his lowest points. He also, I think, saw Dean in a different way than Sam. He saw what keeps Dean awake at night. That comment he made about Dean seeing himself as Daddy's blunt little instrument, him knowing that Dean is self-conscious about his anger, he knows about Dean's self-sacrificial way of living. He knows Dean's a stubborn guy. He just knows Dean so well. I mean, he also knows literally everything that Dean likes. I mean, he went on a shopping trip in season 8 that had him desperately grabbing everything that Dean would buy at a corner store. It's not even that he's in love with an idea of Dean, he's just in love with Dean. Do I think that sometimes he is blinded by love? Yes. But I have never doubted that Cass knows Dean so well. Another thing that I think shows the depth of love is how Cass will actually change his behavior when it hurt Dean to make it so that he doesn't hurt Dean again. I'm not saying that Cass has been exactly perfect in his relationship with Dean. He's fucked up. But what I genuinely think is great about Cass is how he learns from those mistakes. For instance, we have little things like he starts to give Dean more personal space as the show goes on. He stops staring at Dean while he sleeps because Dean found it weird. Upon learning that Dean wants him to reach out when he's in need of help, rectifies his previous mistake in season 8 when he fled alone with a tablet and asked Dean for help with closing the gates to heaven. In season 9, when he had an angel army, instead of not keeping Dean in the loop like in season 6, he invited both Sam and Dean to his compound so they could know what he's up to. He calls and checks in more in the later seasons upon realizing that Dean was upset when Cass didn't answer his prayers/phone calls. He apologizes every time he makes a mistake and attempts to have a conversation with Dean every time there's a problem. Like, he genuinely just wants to make sure that Dean is happy with their relationship. Speaking of change, let's get to the root of how intense Cass's love for Dean is. All the things I just listed are for sure reasons why Cass's love for Dean is just phenomenal. Where it gets even better is how Cass falling in love with Dean changed him so completely. Like, we outlined Cass, who he was before Dean's love at the beginning of this analysis for this reason. By the time you get to season 15 Cass, he is nowhere near what he was in season 4. Cass grows one of the biggest hearts I've ever seen. He loves so deeply and completely. His empathy and compassion is so deep. He grows into a human, basically. By the end of the series, he may still have his grace, but he is fully human in emotions, and it's because of Dean. He cared about the whole world because of Dean. His words, not mine. To have someone impact you the way that Cass was impacted by Dean is almost incomprehensible. He fell so in love with Dean that all of his years of conditioning as an angel was broken. And that's a lot of fucking years. All of his years of cult mentality towards heaven was broken. All of his years of never feeling emotions, many years, like millions of years, Dean comes along and in 13 years makes Cass a completely different angel. Cass means it when he says that Dean is a good person, because Cass sees Dean as a template of how to feel emotions, how to care, how to love. In all honesty, Cass learned to love from Dean. He learned to love because of Dean, and he continued to love others because of Dean. No wonder he can't move on to someone else. No wonder he never wants to leave Dean's side. Imagine having someone in your life who pivots your life so much that you feel things you have never felt before. Feel emotions that may have hurt him at times. Guilt, regret, sadness, longing. The full spectrum of human emotions. But that doesn't mean that it wasn't worth feeling all of those bad emotions to feel the good ones. Feel that love and happiness. I can't even find a way to write the gravity of Cass's love for Dean. Just know that it is a love that I don't think anyone has ever felt before, and I sometimes find it hard to wrap my head around it. To think he got told by a cosmic entity who knows everything that there was nothing out there on Earth for him because he looked into Cass's mind and knew he wanted Dean, and Cass still decided to come back from the dead because Dean needed him. Well, now that I have written 6 pages on Cass's love for Dean, allow me to put in one last complaint to Supernatural. Query me this. You made one of the most beautiful loves I have ever encountered in fiction. You made a love that I don't think ever can be replicated. You made a love that enraptures so many fans that the ship continues to dominate even when the show is over. You treated Cass's love for Dean like a joke. It saddens me. Like, deeply to think that you wrote this love only to spit on it at every turn. Only to make it so that this beautiful love got him killed. To make it so that his love was never reciprocated. To make it so that no one ever told Cass they loved him. To create a love and then do nothing with it of value besides some bad guys telling Dean that Cass is in love with him. I don't think I've ever been this upset about a ship, and trust me, I get upset a lot over fiction. Just watch any of my Miraculous Ladybug videos. I'm upset because the potential for something beautiful was there. Something that would have been so great to add to your show. Instead, because that love featured 2 males, you refused to make it a thing. It actually makes me so mad because you squandered something beautiful because you were homophobic. So I guess that brings me to my last point. Love is love, no matter who those people are and who are in love look like or identify as. And it saddens me to see that not everyone thinks that way and that someone would throw away everything because they don't see that. What you did to Cass and the ship of Dean and Cass was not okay. And I hope that one day we can get the ending we deserve. The ending Cass deserves, because Cass deserves happiness. Cass deserved true happiness, not moments before his death, but for the rest of his life. I just hope you know, Supernatural, you fucked up. Anyways, I wanted to end on this note because I think of everything I saw occur in Supernatural, this was the worst thing they did. I am mad at Supernatural for many reasons, and Dean dying on Rebar is a very close second. But I think at the end of the day, the way that they treated Cass's love for Dean was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. No matter how beautiful I think that moment of his death was, because of the beautiful things he said, the moment is tainted forever because so much surrounding it can make you sick to your stomach. I wanted to end by saying that to Supernatural. My final words to you, Supernatural, is this video on Cass's love for Dean. This is a tribute to something that you treated like dog shit. This is a tribute to a character that you built up only to tear down in the last moments of your show. Cass was the best character, hands down. Cass's love for Dean was the best part of the show, and I hope you know I will never forgive you, and I hold long fucking grudges, okay? I am still upset about the Percy Jackson movie, and it's been years. By the way, the TV show better be good, or they will be hearing from me. I don't want to go through this shit again. I will absolutely be reviewing that, by the way. I love Percy Jackson. That's my 3rd copy of the books, and I am planning on buying the new ones that Rick Riordan's putting out because they look beautiful, and I just want to own every single set of Percy Jackson. I have like a $300 set. Oh my god, this is not a Percy Jackson video. Yeah, so that's it. That's the end of my Supernatural. Obviously, because the prequel is in works right now, I will come out of the woodwork with my Supernatural content to review the prequel. I have no hope. None. You can watch my video on what I think about the prequel and its announcement and how I think it's stupid if you want to know more about my thoughts on that. But yeah, for now I'm going to be taking a break, and it's been a long time that I've been doing this, so I think I need a bit of a break from my Supernatural content. But just know I will be back for the prequel, and I just wanted to end on this note though, because I think that, as I said before, I really just think that Cass's love for Dean was beautiful. And I think that the show fucking sucked at, you know, making that anything worthwhile. So, yeah. Anyways, as per usual, fuck you, Supernatural, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.